Now, allegedly, we are live. So I've been told, I don't know if you guys see it or not, but if we are live, it appears that on my little side stream, we are live. So welcome to the live chat with Syd and Macky and Coach Mike, presented by Mind Right Endurance. And super stoked to be here. We've teased it out a little bit. I know I've kind of told the Mind Right family about it. And, I'm super stoked because when I watched the video, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure at some point, maybe we won't, who knows? But when I watched the video, I'm sitting there going, oh, that really sucks. Like, I know that feeling. And then I was like, oh, that's awesome. I know that feeling too. So, I want to just go ahead and kind of get right at it and obviously introduce Syd and Macky. Macky's going to be the star of the show, but Syd is no slouch on her own. If you haven't seen their YouTube channel, shame on you. You should absolutely go check it out, to include the new one, which we'll talk about later. But tell us just a bit about yourselves. What's that, Mike?
2 YouTube channels now.
Because 2 is better than 1. Basic math, right?
Yeah.
So Syd and Macky, tell us, just who in the hell are you guys? For those that don't know, the uninitiated.
I'm gonna let Syd start, and I'm gonna share this link so we get some more people joining us.
So we have both raced mountain bikes professionally for about 5 years at this point, and no, 6, I guess 5, because this year doesn't really count.
Scrap it.
Yeah, 5 years. We started doing YouTube about 3 years ago, and since then I've kind of balanced like racing professionally and making videos about it that people find interesting. At least we hope they find interesting, but kind of just a different way of approaching being pro athletes. We're not entirely sponsor dependent, although we do have sponsors because we have a YouTube channel. So Macky's in social media right now.
Whoa, I'm YouTubing within YouTubing.
That is like, hey, Mike's head is just exploded.
Yeah,
right
I have nothing anymore. I've forgotten everything I brought to this call.
And so obviously we have Coach Mike Durner, our head coach here at Mind Right on here. He is the master puppeteer of these 2. But from what I know, a complete outside is it's very much a team effort. I don't think it's a dictatorship whatsoever, and that's one of the great qualities of Coach Mike.
Mike is a total dictator, man. He's like cracking the whip. He never listens to us. It's harsh.
This one's not iron, but this one is.
I believe when we talked this morning, Mike was kind of like, so Macky, I noticed you didn't ride for 2 weeks, and then it looks like you rode 100 miles yesterday. What was that about? Surprise! That's kind of 2020, basically.
Yeah.
Usually we're a little bit more structured.
Absolutely. And so anyone that's tuning in right now, if you have questions for Syd or for Macky or for Mike while we're on here, throw them in the comments, and we'll get them up. We'll throw them up on the screen. So, Mike, what's your role in all this mess?
So I try to, and I'll be honest, like the one thing 2020 has made a lot easier is like getting routines for these 2, because usually it's like, hey, we're in Moab this week, and next week we're going to be in St. George, and then in 2 weeks we're going to be in, pick a spot. I don't know, Brevard or something, just somewhere different. And because they are van lifers, and it's a cool thing, but it's definitely adds a challenge on a normal year. So this year has been just a different challenge for us. And I'll say from like a balancing their like days in the van, it's been so much easier because like I don't worry about like tight hip flexors the way I used to with these 2 this year. I'll have to like put a Post-it note up if like all of a sudden they start traveling again in January or something, like, hey, hip flexor stretch. But this year it's been a little different and no less fun and entertaining for sure. But but just definitely different. And then so on a normal year, I'm balancing out, okay, hey, we can ride motos this week because we're here, but we can't next week because we're there. And we've got a really good spot to do intervals here, but next week's more like trail riding. Okay. So balancing that level of training structure is what we normally do.
And Macky, how is that from that perspective? Is this year different from your all's perspective? I mean, obviously there are like multiple things going on with you all, right? But is it different from an athlete perspective this year because it may be a little less hectic? Maybe not.
We kind of prefer hectic, so somehow like it's still hectic.
It's still been a little hectic.
Also, like the past couple of weeks, I'm just like, how have we been so busy? Like I'm injured, I can't even ride. Like Macky's not even training right now for anything seriously. There's a pandemic, but yeah, we're still really busy. So I don't know.
I think part of it is like it is probably a mindset, but there's like this balance of when things are normal, there's the stress of like being in the van and having to grocery shop more often and traveling all the time. But there's the benefits of like having races that we're excited about and being in new places, which means you're riding new trails all the time. So there's all these like awesome benefits of being on the road and going from place to place all the time that we don't have this year. So while there is some like simplicity of like, oh, we're in the same place, we know what trails we have access to and are going to for at least a while, we lose that like excitement, reason to train. And we were talking with Mike about that this morning, is like what, how to get that motivation of like there isn't a race that we're training for. We're all hoping that next year racing will be back, things will be back to normal, but there's not really any good way to know whether or not that will be true. And so trying to figure out like how much, can I pretend that so that I have a good reason to like be motivated and train without getting burned out because I'm like, I don't know if it's actually going to happen. And that's honestly where this Everesting came in, is I was sort of like, well, I trained at the beginning of the year hard because there were races that I was looking forward to doing, and then that didn't happen. And, so then I saw that Everesting had sort of exploded and become very popular this year because of all of the races getting canceled. And I was like, okay, let's come up with a crazy Everesting challenge. And Mike sort of looked at me and, tried not to go, what? Are you an idiot?
Started quivering.
Good idea. Let's train for that.
I think Mike's just like, oh, this is going to be good. One way or another, this is going to be a lot of fun.
I know it's going to happen. So Macky, let's lead to that. What is Everesting? Because there are people that don't know, even though it has exploded and it's come on the radar big time in the past 6 months. What the hell is it?
Oh yeah, no, it's it exploded. It might not be the right word. It has become very popular in the racing scene because it basically is seeing how quickly you can climb the height of Everest by going up and down the same hill. And most people do that on a road bike on pavement. And some people are doing that on dirt on a mountain bike. And I chose the latter because, well, A, we don't have any great paved climbs around here. And B, I figured if I was going to do an Everesting, I might as well go for a really epic one. So I decided to do it at Fraser Mountain, which is up in Taos Ski Valley. So every lap I started at about 9,500 or 9,400 and ended above 12,100 feet. So 2,700 feet a lap. I had to do 11 laps to make the Everesting height of 29,042. I'm sorry, 29,029. And it was a big day.
Yeah. So Mike, I want to go to you real quick. When they said that, did your ears just start steaming, or did you immediately go, I like this? Like, what did you expect from it?
First of all, everyone meet Jack.
Hello, Jack.
He does the dead sailor when you try to introduce him on Zoom calls.
I see that.
Yeah. Or YouTube.
Yeah.
Or YouTube. Yeah.
So no, I like this year, just like the athletes had to kind of embrace trying new things and being more flexible and more creative. As a coach, I did the same thing. So when like somebody comes and says, "Hey, I want to try this year," I'm just like, "Okay, let's go with it." And I will say, Macky was not the first of my athletes to say, I want to try this year. I had somebody do an unsuccessful attempt, probably because and I'll take at least part of the responsibility, at least a big chunk of it, because I was like, oh, I mean, you're just riding up and down the same hill. And then I did not a full Everesting attempt, but a shorter one after she failed, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is like,
oh, that's miserable.
Yeah, this is something totally different. Like, we have to there's prep and there's like a lot more to it. And I almost crashed because I was eating while descending because I thought that was a good idea. That's not a good idea, people. Let's not do that.
Never.
And so, yeah, I had to dig around and find out some more about it after that. But as far as people trying new things, yep, let's try new things this year. When during a normal race season do we have the opportunity to go, this is a good idea?
Let's go play with fitness.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Macky, what were your initial thoughts? Because you said it on a special day, right? It had already had a little bit of meaning to you, because if I recall, it was your birthday. And so obviously that carries some emotion with it anyway, because it's a special day. What were your expectations going into it? What were you, when you said, hey, let's do this, you knew it was going to be tough, right? And you knew it was going to suck often and hard, but what were your thoughts? What were your expectations?
I really I just wanted to see if I could do it. And honestly, that might not even be the right word, because I've done enough racing and I've done enough, things that I know that if I'm pretty determined to do something, I will probably do it. Barring,
I was going to ask if you thought for a second you wouldn't be able to complete it.
Barring a serious mechanical or injury, I was like, I'm going to finish this. There were definitely times where I was like, wow, this is really not fun. Why did I decide to do this on my birthday? I could have been doing so many other things that are more fun than this on my 33rd birthday. But instead, I decided to ride up and down a hill 11 times. So yeah, that wasn't that fun.
A mountain. You rode up and down a mountain.
Right up and down a mountain 11 times.
It was a hill, okay?
It was just kind of a little hill. Yeah, so there were definitely times that I didn't want to be doing it, but I never really considered stopping.
Yeah.
And at the end, I had a mechanical on the last lap towards the top, and that was
bad.
Hard mentally, because I was just seriously, I have to make it another 1,000 feet up this mountain and then I'm done. And so that was really annoying, but still then I wasn't oh, I'm just going to give up and turn around. I was okay, I guess I got to figure out how to do this. And fortunately, Syd and my brother were riding that lap with me, so I made them fix it for me.
Remy fixed it.
Yeah, my brother Remy fixed it for me. But there was never really a thought of quitting. It was more just, how long and how miserable. How long is it going to be and how miserable am I going to be? And, how miserable is all of my poor support crew going to be? Because both Mike and Syd were supporting me on that day. And it was a very long day for everybody.
Logistically, right? Because and I've watched the video. If you have not watched the video after this, we'll share out the link. You need to go watch the video, because there's a lot to be said. It's a lengthy video. It's 30, 35 minutes long, but there's a lot to be said for just the sheer logistics in it. Having done a couple of really long things and having to have a support group for such, did you ever have traffic going up and down that were not people with you or there for you? Or was it pretty wide open? You kind of had free reign? I saw some wicked descending at night videos that made me cringe, and I want to talk about those a little bit. But did you ever have any issues with people or logistical snafus? And maybe that's a question for Syd, because I think she kind of spearheaded the whole base camp deal?
Yeah, I mean, luckily not many people ride these trails
In general.
Very few people ride up the road, or up the, like, road is a strong word here, but up the fire road that Macky rode up, because there are single track trails that go up and down.
That are way
So
better.
really,
They're
like,
much
no
better.
one in their right mind would have been doing that. So I think pretty much anyone who
And it was a Monday.
It was
Okay.
also a Monday. So I think pretty much anyone who was on that route was someone who was out there watching you.
Yeah.
He got stuck like behind cars on the, like, quarter mile of road section a couple times. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
a bummer. But I mean, that probably was like 45 seconds that lost total.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly just passed cars.
And so, but before we get into it, because there were several moments in there that somebody that's done some longer things, I can relate to a lot of the emotion that I saw from Coach Mike, from Syd, from Macky, just the sheer emotion of the moment that maybe people that haven't done that long of stuff where your body really is completely taxed and your brain is going, what the fuck are we doing out here, you know? Mike, what were your feelings when you saw him come down a couple times? Because he was shelled a few times when he got back down there late in the game, or maybe getting ready to go back up. You know, what was your approach to that and your feeling for that?
That's pretty normal. As weird,
He's where he needs to be.
As weird as it sounds, like, I mean, that is a normal ebb and flow of doing something really long, like whether it's, you know, a couple hours beyond what you normally do, or whether it's 3/4 of a day, like a full 24-hour day, not just like an 8-hour day. You're going to go through those ebbs and flows of energy and emotion, and if you don't, I'm gonna have like, oh well, either you're not
Going hard enough.
you're a sociopath, or you're a really good actor, because like, you know, I've crewed for things that last. I think the longest crewing work I've ever done was 33 hours straight.
Oh.
And so, yeah, like even the crew was hallucinating at that point. So yeah, everybody, you're gonna have those normal shifts, and like if you don't have them, I think something's up. But
Something's wrong. Yeah.
I think the weirdest part was, for me, was like seeing that at the base and at the top, and then riding with Macky and having him like clear-headed again. Like once he's pedaling up the hill, it just came back on, and he's like, "Hey, this is what I'm listening to right now for the YouTubers." Like, oh, all right,
yeah, and so, you know, that's kind of the coach's range of emotions, right? Because we're concerned for the welfare. We're making sure that pacing wise and the nutrition and hydration, all those things that we normally, but you also know them on a very deep personal level, you know, and so it's also a friend you're watching really be in the suck. And so there's kind of that emotion of, listen, dude, you got this type thing, but there's also a, hey, let's keep knocking it out. Let's minimize stop time, things like that. So
yeah,
I appreciate that insight. And Syd, tell me about it from your end. You know, as the spouse of someone who isn't an elite athlete, but the spouse of someone watching someone do something epic that maybe doesn't make sense to probably 180% of the population. What was it like for you down at the bottom? Because I know there's a couple of nervous moments when you look at the clock going, well, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I think I knew that Macky did not want to do more than one lap in the dark. So that was like, I would say my primary stressor was like, are we going to be here until like 2 a.m? Because nobody's going to be having fun if we're here until 2 a.m. Like, nobody. So that was definitely like, I was stressed about. I mean, I think I've crewed for Macky at different events quite a bit, and he for me and everything, but this was like next level for sure. Like, I'd never done anything like that. It was hard because there was like nothing that I could delegate for 18 hours, except some things that I could delegate to like Mike and my parents a bit. But other than that, like, couldn't really, especially with like COVID and stuff, I couldn't have like anybody feeding him except us, and so I was basically there for 18 hours in like existing in like a slightly stressed state of mind for 18 hours straight, which was kind of hard.
And Macky, I'm interested because I've been in your seat a few times. How, not necessarily doing that kind of crazy stuff, but what was it like for you coming down early on when it was all still kind of like, woo, this is kind of cool, and you get down, your crew's there and they're excited for you. And then when you see the wear and tear on your crew and you see, maybe you can feel the stress that Syd had or that Mike had, that your family had. Did you notice that in the moment? Obviously, hindsight's 2020, and we're still going blind. But did you notice that, or did you just go, "I got to get back on my bike and get my ass"?
No, I was totally selfish, 100% selfish.
As you're supposed to be. Yeah.
This is what's going on with me. This is what I need from everybody else. And then like watching the video later and talking to Syd and Mike about it later, I was like, wow, that was a lot that they had to do for me. But no, during the ride, I was just like, if I think about anything else, I'm way decreasing my likelihood of finishing this.
Yeah. And what was your biggest fear going into it? And was it a real fear having come out of it? Like, what were you the most afraid of? And
I'll go first.
Yeah. and was that actually like
fear? Like what? No, I'll have to think about that.
When you get done with it, is it crashing out? Is it getting a bad mechanical? Is it not completing it after you've said, hey, I'm going to do this? Is it, bonking? Was there a fear? Obviously, there was some type of fear going into it because you're not a freaking robot.
I would say the thing I was most nervous about was not finishing it, which once again would have been because of a mechanical or a crash. But like the buildup that we had done, we put out an Everesting challenge for the month leading up to my attempt and encouraged people to ride either a quarter, a half, or a full Everest. And it could be, as many days as they wanted, all different trails, but just to climb that amount. And we had like 600 people sign up to do it, which was super cool. And like about half those people succeeded in their goal. And like, it was, so there was all this buildup and I was like, wow, I now have to show up and really commit to doing this and not just be like, wow, this really isn't fun. I'm just going to stop because like there were people holding me accountable and, Syd and Mike were there and Syd's parents and there were a lot of people there, but then also knowing we're making a video out of this. This is going to go on YouTube. Syd's doing live updates. Like if I don't finish this, there are a lot of people who are going to be like, hey, did you just give up? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
So not finishing was definitely part of it, but it was more, it wasn't like there was a specific thing I was especially worried about because like descending, I've done enough descending, we've done enough descending that, bombing down a fire road at 30, 40 miles an hour, obviously.
This is why I was worried about this because Macky's like, I like 40 miles an hour, like it's fine. I'm like, but you haven't done that in the dark when you've already been riding for 17 hours. Yeah. Like what could go wrong?
It's funny because YouTube, the comments on YouTube, that was the thing most people were afraid of. They're like, you don't understand how different it is descending when you're tired. I'm like, actually, I do.
You do when you're tired, but I do think this was like another level of tired.
I don't know. I never descending.
But it also is a fire road and not what we used to ride AWS races.
I never felt like sketchy descending. I was never on the edge ever.
I'm going to stop you right there because you're already a special kind of crazy. Both of you are, and Mike included. And so, when you say descending a fire road, I'm thinking of a crushed granite road in Colorado. Listen, I saw the video, and if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It's not a damn fire road. It's a path with some chunk.
And it's worse in real life, right, Mike? He wrote it.
It's terrible. It's not a fire road. There's no vehicles going up there to put out a fire. Let's just be real here.
Well, what do you define as a vehicle? Because I've driven my Subaru on some things that.
Again, you're a special kind of crazy. No,
but
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the top section, a little more technical, but there was no trees. There's limited lines and there's chunky rock, but there's no trees to hit. And then when you get down,
a little exposure on one of the sides, but
Nah,
If
whatever.
I didn't notice it, it's probably not that much. And then you got below tree line, and it was pretty smooth. Yeah. But these are relative smooths to Syd and Macky, myself.
This is true. And me.
Yeah. I thought it was great because the fire road that I go climb on a bunch gets a lot of car and truck traffic. So it's just washboarded out. And so you're just skipping down the road at 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
This was fantastic because there was no washboard.
So, Mike, let me ask you, as a coach, what was your fear for him going in? Because obviously you're concerned about his career, right? Down the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Did you have any fears or apprehensions going in?
Well, I think as a coach, if I worry about somebody's career, I'm doing the wrong. I'm coaching the wrong sport. I need to go coach table tennis or something, because this is bike racing. People crash.
I'm gonna make that into a quote right there. Hands
down,
that I write one day.
I've personally driven riders to the hospital. So in
so
foreign countries, nonetheless.
About you, Macky.
I look at it as more okay, this is just a challenge that this particular athlete wants to take on, and not something that's, if they come to me with something that's I think might be career ending. So if Macky's hey man, I want to do Red Bull Rampage this year, I'd be like, you could do it, but let's talk about this first, okay? Let's have a deep talk about this first. But for something like this, I'm nah, I'm not too worried about his skill level. I just want to make sure that I provide him the fitness to get through it.
Yeah.
And I, fitness, and we practice the nutrition, and we, and he understands ahead of time that this is going to suck at some point.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
I don't think he fully understood that. I really think you thought it was not going to suck nearly as much as it did.
I don't know if I could say it enough to Macky to really help him understand how much it was going to suck.
But I think that's part of doing something like this, is that you literally, until you've done one, you can't know how much it's going to suck. And if you did, you wouldn't do it.
Right, exactly.
People kept being so are you going to climb 34,000 feet for your 34th birthday? And I was no, I'm going to go float down the river.
That's what we're telling everyone. They're like, so what are you going to do for your next birthday? We're like, we're going to go tubing and drink beer.
Yeah.
Learn.
So I did it. I'm really glad I did it, but I'm also glad that I am not going to do it again.
So
frankly,
with that being said, Macky, what was, obviously, if we asked you as soon as you finished compared to now, you're 2 months removed almost. What was the absolute worst moment of the entire thing? And did it get captured in the video that everybody has or will watch on YouTube?
Probably breaking, or you didn't actually break the wheel, but flatting and.
Yeah, I flatted on one of the middle laps, and
was it 7 or 8?
Yeah, 7 or 8, and it was really frustrating. But that was probably a low point, honestly, because at that point I was
I think when you realized your tube had a hole in it, that was a low point. That was a lesson. Someone asked on Patreon, what would you do differently if you did it again? Check the freaking tube for holes.
I mean, it sounds basic. I'm not a professional, but it sounds like legit to me.
It had been taped on my bike, and I was like,
it's got to be good.
I haven't used it. It's fine. And it was not fine. It had been taped on my bike for too long.
And if I remember, didn't you continue to descend slowly with a flat?
Yes.
My dad rode the e-bike up and swapped his wheel A little
Yeah.
bit before the, yeah.
I mean, I had no other option. Like, I had a flat tube and the hole was too big to plug.
Yep.
I was like, the only way I'm getting down is riding down, and it destroyed the rem tape, and the wheel is totally fine. There's not even a dent in it.
That
Mike and I were looking at it at the bottom going, how?
Can we shout out?
Yeah.
Can we shout out the wheel manufacturer on that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Shimano XT
wheel.
wheel.
Holy
I am super,
Another reason
super
to
impressed.
wear have aluminum wheels too, because it didn't break.
It's true. Even if I had to, I could pull the dent out.
Yeah.
You were on a fire road descending
Yeah.
with a flat.
Fast too. Macky descends really fast on flats. Like
Man.
super disturbingly quickly on a flat.
It did help. It was the rear tire.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Yes, that was helpful.
Yeah,
Front
That was
is a
helpful.
lot worse.
yeah.
You know, what's the longest ride you had done in your career or your life prior to that day? Longest nonstop, continuous ride.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I raced a 24-hour national champs, but as a 4-man team. So obviously, you're riding an hour or something every 3-ish hours.
Yeah, you're 8 hours max, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So
Caveat.
it probably was the training ride 3 or 4 weeks before I did it that Mike put in there for me, where one day I rode 4 laps of Fraser, so it was 6 hours. And then the next day I rode the double boundary, and that took 11 or 12.
Okay.
I
I think Mike had an amendment to your comment there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just so people understand what happens in a 12 or 24-hour relay event, you get that rest, but you're also doing those hours or 30 minutes or whatever your lap is basically at threshold.
Right.
So let's do 8 hours at threshold in 24 hours.
Just get after
yeah,
it.
you're racing every single lap as if it were a race on its own.
Yes.
And
You're
you're not
ready, set,
resting.
race for an hour.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
very valid point there.
So, but yeah, that
We
weekend.
got second that year.
Nice. Was that Old Pueblo? Or was
No, that was Moab. Way
Oh.
back in the day. It was 2010 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mike,
Mhm.
what's next for him? From as a coach, because obviously you have a how long did it take you, Macky? Was it 16, 17 hours?
18.
18
Just
hours.
under 18.
So obviously he's got a decent base of fitness now, right? Even though
Well,
you're
yeah.
what direction does he go now as a coach? You all kind of chatted about it today, and obviously, trying to get going again and get inspired and all that fun stuff. But what's next?
Yeah, so Mackie and I did have this conversation this morning, and I think right now it's tough because we're all kind of what's going to happen for 2021? Are we going to have a race season? Are we not? There's still the odd race happening. If you go to the World Cup level and XC, they did a weird 4-race series in 6 days in Europe last week, and then World Championships are next Saturday. So you're gonna race 5 times in 11 days, basically. That's craziness. And so the truth is I don't know what's next, but like Mackie alluded to a little bit earlier, we're being optimistic, and we're working under an assumption that, hey, there's going to be some races next year. And so when we talked about it this morning, Mackie's like, I really liked what was on the schedule for this year before everything got locked down. And so it's some cross country races. It's 3 days of fun single track cross country in Moab in the springtime, and then some enduros and this cool but a little crazy race in France called Mega Avalanche. If you want to think about racing downhill longer than most people have ridden their mountain bike, that's what it's like. And I think starts on snow, doesn't it?
Starts on a glacier, yeah.
Starts on a glacier.
Because why not? Where else are you supposed to start it?
Yeah, France, right? And so, and then some of the Epic Series races, which are like a pretty cool event. It's like a 25 minute crit on your mountain bikes on Friday night for the pros, which if you go to their YouTube channel, you can find Macky's video from Bentonville, Arkansas last year, which was pretty intense.
It's funny, that video did really well, the mountain bike criterium thing. I don't know why.
I've watched
I think just because a lot of people wanted to come in the comments and be like, this is dumb, but then they watched the video and were like, that was actually kind of cool.
It looks so hard too. I'm like, ouch, just watching it. Because
it was really hard.
I've done a couple crits and I'm like, that's not fun. That's so hard.
No fun.
And then they do like a anywhere from 40 to 50 mile off-road race the next day.
Okay. So we got some stuff lined up. Macky, let me ask you this.
Actually, 2 days later on Sunday, right?
2 days later. Yeah.
Yep.
Macky, you get 1 day to think about the 50 miler.
Yeah. And let the pain from Friday night fully sink in.
Yep.
So Macky, obviously, Mike kind of told us a little bit about kind of what the ambitions are if optimistically if things go well. Based on what you said earlier, you would never do another Everest attempt.
Not on that mountain.
So you're saying there's a chance.
You never know how you're going to feel in a year. But right now, I have zero interest in ever doing an Everesting again. Although, admittedly, 2 weeks ago, if you'd asked me if I ever wanted to ride my bike for over like 20 or 30 miles, I would have told you no. And then I did a century yesterday just for fun. So things change quickly around here.
Yeah, you're a special kind of stupid. You're my kind of people.
I think if he did it again, you would do it on like a road bike somewhere where you could like see how fast you could do it. I don't think you feel the need to try to do the hardest ever Everesting ever again.
Yeah. Okay.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. I went for like most epic, high altitude, really hard, etc. I'm glad, but yeah, I would probably go for like speed with the knowledge that I'm never gonna beat all the pro roadies who did it, but like it'd be interesting to see how I could do.
Yeah. And Syd, is your Everesting is next week? Is that right?
Oh yeah. I before he did it, I would have been more interested. I think now I'm like, wow, that's like way more than I would want to do. Yeah. Maybe like a half Everest would be more appealing.
If Everest was a drink, right? Same page here. Well, I mean, it's absolutely it is awesome because as it blew up, as I said earlier, it was really cool to see. And then you have a lot of pros that don't have anything else to do but go out and either steal each other's KOMs and talk smack, or go out and do these crazy things. It got more and more publicity and started rolling, and I'm always intrigued by that type of stuff. And then when you said you were going to do it, I was like, I'm following this because I know these people. Like this is gonna be a train wreck with a dumpster fire in it. I want to watch. Please put out a video because so many other people have done it. I'm sure there's other videos out there, but the video you all put out of the other ones that I've seen, it's just, and it may be because it's on a mountain bike. It may be because descending in the dark down a fire road, is freaking epic. It's not going down a road that's got lights on it, or that you got, it's crazy, crazy, crazy talk. So super big kudos to that, Macky. That was absolutely incredible. One last thing I want to ask you before we get to the questions. Let's say I said, Macky, I want to do the Everesting challenge in 2 months, whatever. What's the very first piece of advice you would give me?
Carefully consider your decision. Think about if you actually want to do an Everest in 2 months. And then I would say, get a coach. Because the great part about having a coach is you don't at this point, we've become friends with Mike. We've been working with Mike for 6 years, I think.
You have.
I've been.
No.
Maybe
I think it was 2014.
No.
15.
No.
It was 2016.
Yeah.
Now, first
There you
caveat: I'm the oldest person on this call, and I have better retention of memory.
He's a group elephant. That is true.
Yeah, it was 2016.
Okay.
And then I think it was 2017 that you and Syd decided it would be good for Syd to come along too.
End of 2017. I
And
think.
like late August, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we've been working with Mike for
A while.
16, 17, 18, like close to 5 years.
Yeah.
We are now friends with Mike. We hang out with Mike.
We sleep in his
We
basement.
sleep in his basement, play with his kid. Like, it's great. But, like, even if you don't have, like, a relationship with your coach, if you're not good friends with your coach, the benefit of having a coach is having someone who can objectively look at your goals and objectively look at where you are and figure out how to get you from where you are to your goals. And, it's very hard. Like, I have some friends who are self-coached who have been extremely successful, but it's really hard to do that. And frankly, I know for me, I would spend a lot of time questioning, like, oh, should I go out and do intervals today? Or like, should I take a day off? Or, I would be constantly questioning. And working with Mike, I can say, Mike, here's my goals. Here's what my, schedule looks like. How can we make this happen? And then Mike builds a schedule. And then if things change because I'm especially tired, or we've been driving a lot, or there's been a lot of stress, then I can go to Mike and say, hey, I've been really tired recently. I think I need some more recovery, and he can put that in there. But having someone who can objectively look at where you are and where you want to be and figure out how to get you there is huge and makes all the difference. Like, trying to just decide on your own, I think it would be a very stupid idea to attempt an Everest without a coach. That's what I would say.
Mike, I think I'm done here. I don't think I need to say anything.
All right.
Did you have something to add to that? Or I saw you raise your hand maybe. Mike, you have something?
Oh, I can't remember. No,
Okay.
Mike can go ahead.
Shout out, Mike. Go ahead.
I mean, that's what we're here for as coaches, is to make those decisions. Because if you look at how many choices we have, especially as Americans, we have a ridiculous number of choices every day in life. Our brains only have so much energy to make those decisions. And so if you're spending too much of your energy making decisions at work, or making decisions about what to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or how do I balance training and work and family and kid stuff, then you're draining that energy that you have, and something's going to suffer. So I really see it as a big chunk of my job is I free up that energy for the athletes that I work with.
Yeah.
So that they can just go train.
Yeah, absolutely. And with anyone watching this, sure, Everesting is a ridiculous idea. It sounds insanely hard, no matter what bike you're on. Unless you're on a ski lift, I think it's a terrible idea. Or a moped. There you go, solid Mike.
I was just thinking the same thing. Unless you're on a motorcycle, that sounds really fun.
I would personally implore everyone that's watching this just to do something epic. You got some fitness, and that's exactly what Macky did. He found something that fit within kind of his base of fitness that inspired him in a time that's tough to find that inspiration sometimes. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to go do some epic shit. Let me see, what can I do? I can do this. So find something epic and go do it. I think for me, that was a big takeaway from this is, do I want to do it Everesting? Well, after watching your video, no. But do I think that doing crazy ideas is awesome and a good usage of the fitness that we've earned? Absolutely. So I'm gonna hop into the comments, the questions that we have, because we actually have quite a few, which is cool.
Well, and real quick, Kate actually just said she pays for a coach to take the mental load away, and that's that's the perfect way to put it. What was Mike was saying, it's what I was like. That's it. Like, you pay a coach to be like, here's what you need to do, Now go do it.
Mhm.
Instead of being like, what should I do? Because it just sucks.
Yeah. Mike, so Ian asked a question. It was very early on when you had talked about, hip flexors and stuff like that. Just very briefly go over why that's an important keynote for this specific pairing or these specific athletes from a coach's perspective.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned when I was talking about that, Syd and Macky normally live in their van, and so they drive a lot. Normal. I think a short trip for them is like, oh, we're in Taos. Let's drive to Crested Butte. It's 3.5 hours or something. And 5. Really? 5? I guess there's not really a fast way to get there.
No, there is not. I've been there.
There's not a fast way to anywhere from Taos.
Except Angel Fire.
Except Angel Fire.
Yeah.
Even that's not that fast.
And so, like, longer days are like, hey, we have to drive to Sea Otter from Sedona, or we have to drive to Vancouver. I don't remember where you guys drove to Vancouver from last year, but it was forever.
Yeah, I mean, Taos. We drove Taos to BC in like 4 days.
Yeah, and then from BC you drove to Downeyville.
Downeyville, yeah.
And so that's a lot of time in this seated position that as humans we're not technically evolved to be in for extended periods of time. And so those hip flexion muscles, they don't produce a lot of power. They don't really contribute to you going faster, but if they're over tight, well, they contribute to you going slower or not wanting to be on the bike at all. So yeah, we gotta stretch those out and even if it's as simple as just standing or doing a little yoga, we're going after things that get Syd and Macky out of that seated position, because it's like, okay, we're gonna sit in the van for 4 days and we're gonna sit on our bikes for the next 7, and we're gonna sit, then we're gonna sit in the van again, and then we're gonna sit on our bikes again, and so we're always in that like forward position of at least 90 degrees at the hips, and humans aren't, as fun as it is, we're not meant to be in that position. So
what would be really a bummer is if we also had to edit videos all the time and sit. That would really be too bad.
I didn't even get into that because yeah.
Terrible. It would be even worse than that. The multiplier is 2 if you were to start another YouTube channel. Anyway, I won't suggest
the video.
I won't suggest that.
I'm gonna invent a squatting desk.
Oh,
like standing desk is cool, but like if you just want to relax, squatting desk is where it's at.
Would it just be like super low, close to the ground?
Yeah.
I'll prototype it for you, Mike.
Okay.
Man, I've got like 27 seconds of functional work happening before I have to stand up. So I don't think that's a good idea for me.
Well, on day 1, but by day 30,
Nope, I'm still cramping in that position after 27 seconds. Great point, Mike. So I just realized you're going to actually do us another moving better video here in the next couple of weeks on hip flexors. That what you said, it lit me up. So I think that would be a great thing, because I sit, they sit, you sit, everybody sits. So
yeah,
that'd be awesome to see on our YouTube channel. So let's see here. We got ask Syd and Macky if they ride fat bikes.
Not really.
We're not against riding fat bikes. We just don't have them. And usually when it's cold and snowy, we go somewhere warm and not snowy.
Or do something other than ride bikes.
Yeah, or cross-country ski or downhill ski or snowshoe or, yeah.
So it's not that you don't, it's just that you just don't take advantage of the opportunity. You do other things to offset that.
Yeah.
So Ian asked in the next video, Macky learns backflips.
Macky actually did do a backflip into the foam pit in one of our videos from Ray's bike park.
That's from bike park.
Early January 2018.
It's true.
Or 2019.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
I think it was 18 because your dad was with you.
Yep.
Yes.
I remember that one. Yep.
Yeah.
That bike.
Yeah,
rad.
I used to ski a ton in high school, downhill ski, and I could throw backflips on skis. So I get the movement, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I need to learn to whip first, like a good whip. That is something that I'm thinking about, like spending some time learning next year.
All right. Well, there's that. There we go. We got goals.
They're pump track in Taos.
So,
No.
let's see here. What do you find to be more motivating, racing against yourself or racing against other people? Which is a great question because everything was essentially a race against yourself. I mean, you had a couple people go up and down with you, but for the most part, it was you versus you, as opposed to lining up on the start line, looking over at the person, to your right and left and going, let's throw down.
Personally, I much prefer racing against people, but I think so. I started off racing cross country. I got my pro card in 2006, raced cross country super seriously for like 7 years. And then 2013 started racing enduro. And I'm really glad, partially because of the descending skills that I learned, but also because I learned to race against the clock, which is very like, you see people at the top and you see people at the bottom, but like you are racing yourself. You're not like, I got to go just a little bit harder because this person's 3 feet ahead of me. You're like, I got to go harder because every fraction of a second matters. And learning to do that, learning to race against myself was, I would say, very beneficial to my ability to push myself, because I think it's easier to push yourself when you're standing next to somebody and you're like, I'm going to take you down. And it's a lot harder when you're like, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It only matters how fast I go right now.
And you go, I'm going to take you down, right?
Yes. And it's very hard. Very hard.
Syd, I want to ask you the same thing from a different perspective.
What was the question?
Or against other
it's
people?
right there. That's hard. I think against other people for sure. I guess motivating, it depends a little bit on your definition of motivating. I think like the goals that I set that are based on myself are more motivating. But if it's like head to head with somebody in the moment, I might go more faster.
More faster.
More faster.
I'm done with words for 2020. But yeah, I might go faster in that moment. But like from a broader life perspective, I think like having goals that depend on yourself is more important and more motivating.
Excellent. So Ethan asked a really good question. How can I start racing XC competitively? I have the fitness and skills for it, but I don't know how I should go about finding races and other events. I also don't know race strategy, if that's important. Mike, I'm going to throw this one first to you because you mentioned strategy, you mentioned fitness and skills, and obviously they do it for a living, but you have a little bit different vantage point on this type of development process because this is what you do for a living. So Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
If you've got the fitness and the skills, like you got everything you really need for racing cross country. Like that, those are the biggest things. Too many people start out with the fitness and not the skills. And they think maybe they're coming from the road and they think they can execute some road strategy, which doesn't work out well. But the strategy will come. Like you have to learn that by actually getting out there and racing it. I can't sit down with somebody and like who hasn't raced and coach strategy. And even with my athletes that are going to go race, it's like, hey, here's plan A and through probably Q. And then half the time they end up doing something different than anything we talked about because things just are fluid and they don't always come apart or go together the way I envision it in my head or the athlete envisions it in their head. So you gotta, I think the one big thing though for cross country racing is like get a really good warm up because you're gonna go hard off the start, and then just keep going hard for the rest of the day.
That's what I was gonna say. It really, like, it wasn't until I was racing pro that I ever really considered strategy when racing cross country. It's basically like you're standing on the start line and the gun goes off, and you go as hard as you can until the race is done. And like that's that you're not really drafting, you're not really playing cat and mouse with people. Like you're pretty much just going as hard as you can for the entire time, and then the race is over. And like, you know, when you get a little bit, you know, when you get into the pro ranks, then there's some strategy of, you know, a little bit of drafting or like playing cat and mouse with people,
or starting out extremely fast so you don't get stuck.
Yeah,
everyone.
Full shot. Like there's some of that, but for most, like until you're at that level, just go out there and just push yourself, and you'll figure out things that work and don't work. And you know, and the one thing I'll say, just because this is something I feel like is easy to forget when you're racing, there's nothing, winning is not more important than being a good person or a good racer. Like,
hey, say that again. Say that again.
Yeah. So winning is not the most important thing. Being a good competitor is the most important thing. Like, if you win all your races, but it's because you're, you know, pushing people off the trail as you go past them or never letting them pass, like everyone's going to hate you and no one's going to want to sponsor you.
I think our stream's done. I think we're done on that. That's better than the whole Everesting chat.
Be a coach. Be a good person.
Yes, there we go.
Check.
And we're done.
Yeah.
But it's something that I just, you know, people get. I'm competitive. Don't get me wrong. I'm extremely competitive. I like to win. I like to do well. But if you are going to cheat or be a jerk to win, you've lost the whole point. Like, it's just not worth it.
And so, the last thing I'll add to that, because I don't have a lot of experience in that world for sure, but you know, Ethan, if you're interested in that, obviously I think you've probably already checked out their channel and you check out all the stuff they have. They got a ton of good content. I watch that and I go, I think I could do that. Like, that's not that hard, right? And the other thing too is reach out and pick people's brains, like Coach Mike or other coaches out there that coach this stuff, and go, hey, just like the question you ask us, like how do I take the next step? How do I develop? How do I grow? How do I learn? You know, shoot a note to Syd and Macky. I'm sure that they're very personable, and I guarantee they'll reach back out to you. So if they don't, it's a money back guarantee.
Real quick, we kind of skipped over Ethan's middle question there of finding races. And I think like you just gotta like Google mountain bike cross country races near me. Right now, I think that's probably the best option. That's what I did the other day. I mean,
also you can talk to local shops, because a lot of time they'll know. Obviously, that once again, we're in a weird year where you don't want to just go in and hang out in the shop for multiple hours. But yeah, ask people around and just say like, hey, you know, do you know of any races? Look for flyers at bike shops, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's something that honestly for years I've been trying to find like a complete calendar, and I haven't found one. And so I keep thinking that I'll just make a website, but that hasn't happened yet.
You should make a second before you make a website.
You got some other things going on.
Yeah. So Ethan asked, Syd is doing an Everest. Apparently I started a rumor here.
Yeah, no, that was a joke. Maybe one day, but not on the plane.
Not today.
That is not truth. Let's be sure we squash that. We got Kate saying, you know, she pays for coach for the mental load. Let's see here. Let's move on down. I like this hashtag. Be more awesome. I'm down with that. I think that's exactly what.
There's Mike's shirt.
Yeah.
You can get the shirt.
Boom. Got the shirt.
Yeah.
There we go. Somebody, Ian says, as a desk jockey, I sit a lot, so I'll be looking up hip flexor stretching. There you go, Mike. Coach Mike.
Well, make sure you're subscribed to Mind Right Endurance. Mike does a little series about how to move better, we'll probably cover hip flexors at some point.
I think I'll be covering hip flexors real soon.
Yeah. And the best part for me is, and the funny part is nobody knows me, which is awesome. The best part for me is that initially Mike used to squirm a lot when he did videos. And he was real uncomfortable doing it. He's got so much better. So his quality is phenomenal. He's understanding angles and lighting. And Mike has grown so much. And you guys can appreciate this because I reached out. Mike, you don't know this. I'll tell you a quick story. I reached out to Syd and Macky, and I'm like, oh, God, how can I make Mike more entertaining on video? And they were like, we'll hit you back next week.
I bought a tripod.
Yeah, no. Hey, next
with the
level.
Remote and everything.
Welcome to 1998. All right, so
hey, I was gonna say we didn't reach back out but we just went and shoved a camera in his face over and over for like
18 hours.
18 hours, and then like multiple other
That
times.
helped a
So,
lot.
So yeah, but no, Mike's Moving Better series is phenomenal, and a shameless plug for our business, mine and Mike's is Mind Right Endurance, our YouTube channel. So Kate says, my friend from Japan always squats instead of sitting on the ground. Definitely a cultural thing there. I think we can all agree on that.
Well,
I've started doing that also. It's really helped my hip mobility.
Yeah, like if you go to the third world, that's how they wait for the bus.
Yep.
So.
Garrick had a follow-up question to the fat tire. I believe he asked the fat tire question, if I'm not incorrect here. I don't think he did, actually. But he said, what about gravel racing? You want to do any gravel racing?
We haven't done any.
I did Old Man Winter. And it was Old Man Winter, and it got canceled because there was so much snow. And I broke my shifter.
tried to do a gravel race.
I did.
It was like the biggest cluster of a gravel race that maybe has ever been put on.
Yeah.
Ethan says, thanks for the tips. They've been really helpful. Ethan, reach out if you need help, buddy. Obviously, you got Syd and Macky that I think you're familiar with. You got Coach Mike you can reach out to. I think there's a lot of resources out there. If you just all you got to do is reach out. And I think you guys will probably agree with what we do for careers as coaches and as pro athletes and kind of figures, if you will. We enjoy when people reach out and go, hey, I'm trying to do this, because we go, man, just like when I watched your Everesting video, I was like, man, I've been in that same mental position before. Like I can relate to that. So absolutely reach out, Ethan, or anyone else that has any questions or comments or anything for the group. Greg, we're almost in the comments here. Greg says, a group of us attempting Everesting in Trinidad and Tobago on 7th of November.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
That's super cool.
So is there a mountain there? I don't know much about that area.
It's a hilly country. I will say, like, there's a legend in the cycling coaching community who's from Trinidad and Tobago that I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times. Des Dickey was a phenomenal man and a great cycling coach. Passed away a couple of years ago, but hey, you guys down in there doing that, do that in honor of Des, because he was a super cool person.
There we go. That's Mike. That's solid. Yeah. I'd like to hear that story later sometime, buddy. So Ethan says local shops might be a good idea since I'm a full-time RVer. Man, he is like basically you all. Right? So his bikes are probably pretty fouled up. He probably drives an extremely long way to get to a bike race. So he goes to shops often. I'm telling you, Ethan's going to reach out to you guys and go, hey, so let me ask you about your bike racks in your RV or your camper. Ian asked what the links to Mike's channel is. Actually, Ian, the link is actually where you're at right now. Is the Mind Right Endurance. You can go to playlists, and Mike's got a ton of stuff on there. You can just go look at videos. There's a ton of stuff on there that he's put out in the past little while that I think will definitely get you started. And if there's anybody watching, obviously we have the YouTubers, if you will, of Syd and Macky on here. If you guys have something you want to see them talk about, do, and we'll talk about Syd's channel in just a second, but or you want to see Coach Mike talk about something, like there's a ton of knowledge right here on your screen right now. Reach out, send a DM, send a message, whatever you got to do. Not hard to find. We can absolutely help you out as much as possible. Sean says, how many days of strength training does Coach Mike incorporate for Syd and for Macky during their off season? Is it more high velocity with low weight or high weight with low velocity? Man, we might be here for a minute, Mike. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes because I know what's about to happen. And go ahead and eat.
So oddly enough, for Syd and Macky, I just kind of plug in the days that we want to do it, and I will, and in the past it's been dependent on like how often they're racing or how often they're traveling. But I don't do the exercises and the real deep, periodization of those exercises for these two. For Syd and Macky, this is more of a team coaching situation. So I manage where things go in the schedule. I manage the bike specific training and how do we set up the moto training to reduce potential for injury. But within the team, then there's what Lee McCormick up in Boulder, who does their skills training. And then Dane, I can't remember Dane's last name right now.
Delazier.
Dane Delazier, thank you. I knew it was another D, but Dane Delazier is their physical therapist and also has a similar qualification to me as a strength conditioning coach. And so Dane, with the physical knowledge that he has of working on the injuries, he prescribes the actual exercises and the periodization of those exercises. And then I just try to plug it in where I think it's going to be the most effective.
1 minute, Mike. Are you done?
Yes.
Perfect. Look at that. You beat the timer.
Nailed it.
I mean, I don't know that he's ever done that before on our chat. Greg comes back from they're doing that Everesting attempt, and he says it's a 1,600-foot climb called Mount St. Catherine's, a 5-mile climb. He also says Richard Dickey is the coach, now him. And then he says, what day or night would be best to start? And then he follows that up with, our plan is to start at 7 a.m. And I'm looking for feedback from either of you all, and hit the hot sun when we are fresh. Thoughts?
I'm trying to calculate 1,600-foot climb.
Carry the 3, divide by 2 on a Monday.
Exactly. I'm trying to figure out how many laps that would be. 10 would be 1,600. Half of that is, so it'd be 15, 18 laps, something like that. I think it'd be 18 laps.
Ouch. Is that what you just said?
Yes, that also. No, I'm just trying to figure out, because if you think you can do it all within the daylight, then I would say start at daybreak and go until you're done. If you don't think you can, I would probably start pre-sunrise, so that, it says 19 laps.
18
Pre-sunrise, so that you're doing your night laps in the morning when you're fresh instead of at night when you're exhausted.
It is a different calculus, though, if it's going to be extremely hot.
That's
Because
true.
we didn't have that. It was like top like 65 degrees. What we were worried about was like afternoon thunderstorms for him. So we started 4 a.m. with the idea of being like, hopefully having a lot in the bank before any serious thunder turned up, which we got super lucky and it didn't. But and also, if you're on a road, the night stuff is a little less treacherous.
Except cars? I don't know. So I would say, if you think you can do it all in the day, do it in the day. If not, start before, so you're doing your dark laps at night. And then if the idea is that it's going to be hot, I mean, I'd sort of bounce that back to you guys, but I would say just make sure you're hydrating extremely well in the days leading up to it. And then during the attempt that you're doing, at least the bottle an hour that they recommend, and continuing to eat. Because that's what I had the hardest time with, is I ate really well for like the first 5 or 6 laps, and then had a hard time. I was like, I don't want to eat anymore. And they're like, "Gah."
I'm done here.
Pretty much.
So Ian comes back and says start as early as possible. I mean, that's kind of what you guys had just said.
Yeah.
So in kind of wrapping this up, unless any final questions come in, I want to take just a second, and we've kind of alluded to it. Syd, what are you doing with a second YouTube channel? What in the
so we just launched a second channel. It doesn't have my name in the title, but it's definitely a joint project, and it is called Syd Fixes Bikes. And basically, we'll be posting a lot of bike maintenance tutorials, and I will be doing the bike maintenance while Macky prevents me from seriously breaking anything. So it's kind of like the idea of hopefully it'll be helpful to people to see someone kind of go through the process of learning how to do something, as opposed to watching someone who's done it thousands of times just do it all right the first try.
Yeah. So. And is this mountain bikes, road bikes, gravel bikes, all bikes, or is it just specifically mountain?
I mean, we have mostly mountain bikes. So far we've worked on mountain bikes. We definitely will do some road bike ones. We have gravel bikes, so stuff like that for sure.
Fortunately, at this point, almost all of the tech is the same on Mountain Road. Like, you know,
we did do some repairs on his sister's bike from 2009, which involved caliper brakes, and that video may never see the light of day. It was a total hot mess.
Please, we need a blooper
Neither
reel.
of us know how to center a
Listen,
caliper
you can't be perfect and fit, okay? We need a blooper reel. I'm demanding that. Can I make a comment in here real quick? We need to see that video.
Having
I don't know. I'm with
as
Syd, man. Caliper brakes. I'm so glad they aren't standard anymore.
Syd, I'm gonna say, as somebody who worked in a bike shop as a mechanic, like that's like 90% of what mechanics see. That like, and so like that's why all of them are huddled around the one nice bike when it comes in. But
let's work on this one.
Yeah, let's all work on this one, because it's clean and it's not rusty, and it doesn't have caliper brakes or V brakes from 1996. That will make you so much better in working on bikes.
There you go.
Yeah.
The challenge.
We didn't do
on
very well on this one, but we did get there in the end. It took
You may
like
not
2 days.
Everest, but you will fix calipers.
Yeah.
Not Everest, but that's okay. And just out of sheer curiosity from my end, Syd, is that still a thing? Tell me about that. I am, because I've been saying that since you all came out with the game. I admit I was not an initial backer of it. I did not think it would make. I'm just kidding.
It's okay. A lot of people doubted us. It's all good.
We just spent 4 days in the mountains in Grand Teton, and every time I turned around, you trip over a rock, and I just shout, "Send it!" So, tell us about it. What is it? Is it really going to happen? Where can we find out more information about it?
Yeah, so Send It is the first ever mountain biking board game. Basically, you are working your way through a series of paths. You have options at every point, and then you have to hit bigger and bigger features. But to send those features, you have to have both the skills and you have to collect prepare cards so that you check out the landing and you roll in to test your speed and that kind of stuff, with the idea of actually helping people think through some of the things that they can do to make their attempts more successful. And we've actually had a lot of people who have played the prototype come back to me and say, like a month later, every time I get to a feature, I think through the game and I like do all the things, and it really helps. And I was like, that's awesome. That's exactly what we were hoping for. So yeah, mountain biking board game. We launched on Kickstarter and successfully funded. Now you can pre-order a copy still. If you just go to senditboardgame.com or senditboardgames.com, you can pre-order a copy. Mass production has started. We actually got a video recently of like the box insert with the updates we made. So they are being produced. Once they are finished, they will be loaded onto a ship and shipped across the ocean. It's crazy, but we hope to be shipping them in early December so that they arrive in time for the holidays. So if you're interested, definitely go reserve a copy now. We don't have a retailer yet, so if you want a copy, this is the way to guarantee that you will get a copy. We might have some extras, but we don't know.
And you said it was senditboardgames.com.
.com. Yep.
Excellent. So any final thoughts? Mike, I'll start with you first. Final thoughts on Everesting, final thoughts on this crazy couple that we have in front of us, final thoughts on maybe life, Mike, and you got less than 3 minutes for that.
All right. So first, Everesting, it was a fantastic experience even for me to be there. I was lucky enough to be able to go down, and there was a hard part. Like on lap 10, I took a photo of Macky just like hunched over the bars at the top with 1 lap to go, and I was watching the sun go down as I took that photo. I had no idea that Syd would make it the thumbnail, and now I see that, and I'm like, it's gut wrenching every time I see it.
It said it all.
Yeah. These two, they're so much fun to work with. They're great people. They're inspiring. I love having them come to my house when it's not COVID season. And just the work I am lucky enough to get to do in general is super rewarding, and these two make it even more so.
Solid. Look at Mike. He's under the time restraint twice. Big deal. People that aren't familiar with Mike know that's a big deal. We're winning.
I practice.
It's all that camera time.
Yeah.
Syd and Macky, what do you got? What's your final thoughts on Everesting life, this crazy journey that you guys are on?
His crazy year.
Yeah.
Man, it has been a weird year. I mean, I'm super thankful that Syd and Mike supported me so much in making Everesting happen. I mean, I would say probably the two of them were the ones who were the most, that I'm missing the word, but important to the process. Consequential, that's not the word. Help me out
we
here.
were the most helpful.
Consequential is, I think consequential
Most
is
good.
right
Most
word.
Yeah,
Most
they were the
gooder.
most goodest. Yeah.
Most gooder.
Anyway, they were absolutely necessary for my success in Everesting. Mike for helping me prepare for it and, train for it and be ready for it, and then helping support, and Syd for, encouraging me to do it, and then basically standing on her feet for 18 hours so that I could actually do it and complete it. And it was brutal. I'm glad I did it, and I will not be doing it again next year on my birthday.
I think and you definitely inspired a lot of people too. I'm glad we did it
That is
with
not
enough
been
planning
mentioned.
that we could kind of get the people who watch our YouTube channel involved a little bit and have people do a challenge. And I think we ended up having 200, 300?
Like 250.
Yeah. 250 people who completed a challenge of some sort over the course of that month. And we had a full Everest, a half, and a quarter. And yep, there's one of them right there.
Mike got it. That's right.
And I mean, we just had great stories from people who had a stroke and last year, but were able to do this, or who were able to do it on an e-bike, or lost weight, and just it was very cool to see other people be involved.
We had a bunch of families do it, which was really cool. They're like, I did it, and my husband did it, and both of our kids did it. So and they might have done the quarter and the half and then the full, but it was just cool. It got people out riding together. We had a bunch of parents tell us that their kids were like, yeah, I'm going to do the quarter, and actually went out and did the quarter at 11, 12.
11-year-olds finish a half.
They signed up for a quarter, and then both of them ended up doing a half, and those were two different kids. It was, it was just so cool to hear all those stories.
So I think the takeaway is do something epic, be more awesome, and live your life. Right? I think that's what comes from.
And get a coach, yeah.
What's that? And get a coach. Yeah. I probably mentioned that based on what we do for a living. Yes, you're correct. That being said, I'm super thankful to have you all on here. Super thankful to have you all part of the family. Obviously, Coach Mike, you know my feelings for you. We can yell at each other offline, but who knows what the future holds? But I know that in your all's recent past, you've done something that made a difference to yourselves and to many other people. And I think that it's super cool to see that and get to kind of relive it with you guys after watching the video. So if you haven't watched the video, it's on Syd and Macky's YouTube channel, and then their other channel, which you must check out and subscribe to, is Syd Fixes Bikes.
Yes.
Look at that. Hey, right here. I think you can find all of Coach Mike's funsies and watch his original YouTube videos on our channel. That's completely uncomfortable, but he's so talented, so we're getting him better. But, we love everything that Coach Mike brings to the Mind Right family. So thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. We're going to sign off from here, and you all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you soon.